Hello, I'm Drake. Welcome to Working Dragon Mystic, where we discuss real metaphysical, magical, and occult knowledge so that you can manifest real and tangible change in your life. This week we're going to be discussing the Norse god Odin, the Allfather, so stay tuned. Okay, today we're going to be discussing the Allfather, or Odin, from Norse mythology. He's actually one of the main deities I spend the most time working with, so I'm really excited to do this video. Now this is probably our 6th or 7th time trying to shoot this video due to everyone's favorite jet noise. It has been everywhere. So we've officially got everything set up to minimize noise as best we can. And from our last sound test, we're not getting it all out. So we're going to try and shoot this as best we can and get it going. Now one of the things when I was setting up this video, I was writing the script for it and everything. Odin kept coming through pretty strongly that he didn't want me to follow a script. He's like, you can write down your facts. He's like, you can make notes, but don't follow a script. He's like, go to them, talk to them the way you and I do. And that's pretty much, we sit down and we have a discussion. And I'll get into that in a bit. So, first off, who is Odin? Well, Odin is looked at as kind of the chief deity in the Norse pantheon. He's the Allfather. He is the leader and the ruler of the Aegir. And actually, Odin has many facets. A lot of people just see him as kind of a god of magic or a god of war, and even a god of wisdom. And he is all of those things. But just a few of the things that Odin is renowned for. He is a god of war. He is a god of death. He's a god of life as well. Odin is one of the 3 primary creators that created life in the 9 realms, or the worlds. So he actually is very much a creator of life. He's also a god of poetry. Now when they speak about poetry in Norse mythology, that's almost any form of spoken art. So poetry, song, literature, any of those things can be wrapped into that word. He's also a god of magic. Most people know that Odin is where we get the runes from. That he hung 9 days and 9 nights on the world tree, pierced by his own spear, some would say a sacrifice to himself, of himself. And in so doing, he received knowledge and mastery of the runes. And so Odin was the first rune master. Odin is also a master of seed magic, which a lot of people see it as a feminine magic. And culturally speaking, in a lot of ways, it really was. But, and there is many places in the Eddas where he caught flack for studying seed magic. But he did study it. Now, what he done, he taught Freya mastery of the runes, so she would teach him mastery of seed magic. So they traded. And this is why those 2 deities are the primary deities of magic in Norse mythology. Because those 2 sections of magic really make up what we know as Norse magic or Norse sorcery. In one area or another, they touch on everything. Now, like we said earlier, Odin is known as the Allfather. He is the father of all the gods. That's not genetically, but he's just considered to be that prominent figure. Kind of how Zeus ruled over all the other gods. In Norse mythology, all the gods have a say, but Odin gets the final say in how things go. He's also referred to as the Sky Father. He's also known as the Valfather, which is father of the slain. And his hall is actually Valhalla, which is the hall of the slain. This is where the chosen warriors who died in battle go. Now, one of the things that I learned about Odin very early on is he is very much a shamanic style god. When you look at how he travels the worlds, how he practices, even how he hung himself onto the world tree, these are very reminiscent of shamanic style practices, and I would say they don't even, it's not that they resemble them, I honestly think that they truly were. And many practitioners consider Odin to be the first shaman, if not one of the greatest shamans. And culturally speaking, that's a debatable thing. What I want you to take away from here is Odin did teach very shamanic practices, and he employed them himself. Now, Odin often appears in many guises and many faces. He is a shape changer, and he loved to travel the world in disguise. Now, obviously, the warrior god, the golden helmet, the spear, in many works of art, he even has a sword included with his spear, mounted upon Sleipnir, his 8-legged horse, ready for battle. This is the image of Odin most people actually know when I talk to them about Odin. However, he also has an aspect of the wanderer. And this is the guys that, honestly, I think seems to be more common in the myths, or at least when he's wandering the realms. This is where he would take the shape or the likeness of an old man, usually in a gray cloak with a hood or a wide-brimmed hat and a large walking stick, and he'd wander the land helping people, giving gifts, testing people, teaching people, learning what he could as he went along. In fact, Tolkien's character Gandalf the Grey is actually based on the Grey Wanderer aspect of Odin. Now, most of the time when I work with Odin, he actually does come to me in that aspect of the Grey Wanderer. But I've always had that thirst and love of knowledge above all else. And it's that area where me and Odin really connect. Now, why did he want me to sit down and do the video like this, less scripted? Well, anytime I work with him, he tends to come to me and sit as if he's joining me by a campfire. And many times I will build a fire if I can. If I can't, I usually use a candle. I will have some form of fire to represent that campfire. And when he comes, I greet him. I usually give him an offering of some kind of a drink. And we discuss exactly what it is that I'm working on. However, once business is out of the way, he and I will sit there and talk. We'll swap stories, tell jokes, and just have a good time, like two friends chatting and hanging out. This is what he enjoys, and this is how I spend time with him. And I'm more than happy to spend time with him as a friend. That's one of the easiest offerings that I can give to him, honestly, and it seems to be one of the ones he likes the most. Now, he will take just about any offering I've noticed, especially beverages. He loves to have a beverage to drink while we chat. Now, obviously, clearly, mead is a favorite of his at any point in time. He'll never turn that down. I've also found water's fine. Where he does wander the land so much, anytime you're out in the wilderness and you're journeying, water has a big significance to you. So he's very fond of water for those reasons. He does seem to have taken a liking to other alcohols I keep in the house, rum and whiskey. And I think that might just be how he's reacting to my personal practice and the fact that I have those. So I'm sharing something I enjoy with him. But you're more than welcome to test that and try that out for yourself, find out how that goes. I've noticed many entities do tend to approach offerings in a different way based on who you are and what you like and what you tend to have around the house. Because hospitality is a big thing in the Norse culture. So offering what you have and what you like and what you share with a guest, this is a big thing. So if you come to my house and I offer you a beverage, I'm going to give you several options of what I have. But I'm going to make sure it's something you're going to like, and it's something, I'm not just going to give you something I'm trying to get rid of. I'm going to be a good host. And as we covered in the coffee video, he does actually like coffee. Definitely likes his coffee. I've noticed he tends to sip it loudly, though. But that's okay. So a lot of times I get asked exactly how I work with Odin. And I've used the hammer quite a bit actually over the years. It's not one of my favorites to do. But more often than not, I'll just sit down, whether it be in a chair or on the floor, and I'll call to him. Now, as I mentioned, I will actually light a candle and some incense usually. But if I don't have those things, I will just call to him. Because speaking the words out loud and vocalizing them in Norse mythology is a very powerful thing. In fact, even each of the runes, their names, speaking them aloud themselves was considered a form of a spell. So words have a great power in Norse culture. And Odin, being the Norse god of poetry and magic, definitely a great way to contact him. But I usually do it in a simple, repeatable, short form, almost like a prayer. And I would say, Hail Odin, All-Father, Wise One, One-Eyed Wanderer, King of the Azir, Lord of Valhalla, join me here and now in this place and grace me with your presence. Hail Odin, Hail Odin, Hail Odin. And I would actually repeat that until I felt his presence in the room. And at that point, I would just meditate on him and with him. And I would ask him the questions that I have to ask. And I would wait on his responses. Now, another way is I'll use journey work or trance work to visit my astral sanctum, which, if y'all remember, we talked about how to set an astral sanctum up in another video, which I'll try and link below. But when I do that, as most of you will recall, my astral sanctum is on an island. Well, Odin loves to sit on the beach at night around a fire again and talk, and that's usually exactly what we do in that case. I do some evocation work with Odin, though honestly at this point in time, when I call out to him with the incantation that you can use for meditation, his presence is felt so strongly that if I open my arcane senses, it's clear to see him in the room. It's very easy to get him to enter into the room that way after this long. So don't be surprised if you do have the ability to see spiritual entities using clairvoyance or arcane sight, as I tend to refer to it as, that when you do this, somewhere around 7 to 9 times, he's in the room with you. Plain as day. He'll be standing there in one of his personas. And at that point, you just sit down and you start talking to him. You have a conversation. You offer any gifts that you have for him, any offerings, and you tell him of requests. Now, one thing I want to say about Odin. Odin is a very, very helpful deity to work with. And he has helped me through thick and thin. And he's always been there. He's always had my back. However, he, and like most of the Norse entities or gods and goddesses, but especially Odin likes to help you do things for yourself. He would rather teach you to do it for yourself than to just do it for you. So working with Odin can be a little demanding, because it's like trying to go to the gym with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's not going to just have you go to the gym and watch him work out. He's going to put you through your paces too to try and make you better. And for Odin, that's really what it's about. He wants to make you better. So every time you work with him, that's going to be his goal. And I've noticed even the stories that he shares with me for fun, 9 times out of 10, those stories end up having some meaning that I was unaware of, that he just kind of snuck in there. So he's really good at that kind of stuff. But when I am working with him, if I have a problem and I'm approaching it, he's less likely to be like, okay, here, let me take care of that for you. He's more likely, okay, here's what you need to do, and he'll help me come up with a game plan, and he will help me work through that plan. And, he'll back me up in the places where I might need it. But ultimately, what he's doing is he's seeing to it that I'm doing it for myself. He's teaching me to be self-sufficient and to stand on my own 2 feet. When I was studying the runes with him, he was very adamant that I learned the runes and that I learned to apply them in a way that I'm not calling on him all the time to do so. I know a lot of rune practitioners who call on Odin anytime they work with the runes. And I thought that's just the way it was. So I was a little surprised when I was working with him, and he was adamant that I learned to do without him. He's all for being a friend, being an ally. But he wants to see me stand on my own 2 feet. And I've noticed in most people he works with, if not everyone, I should say everyone I'm aware of he does this with. There's always going to be the outlier I don't know of. There's too many people in the world. But he's very adamant about teaching them to do for themselves. And his method of helping seems to be more of guiding them along the path and making them walk the path for themselves as opposed to just doing it for them. And I totally respect that. In fact, I think that's the reason I enjoy the Norse Pantheon more, because I'm not somebody who can sit back and let others do my work for me. I like to be able to do something myself. That's the reason when I took an interest in camping, survival style camping or bushcraft camping, where you just go out with a knife and maybe a little survival kit, or that's all you take with you. And you learn to go out there and survive off just the land without having to take tents and all this massive modern gear. And to this day, that's what I do, especially when I go out into the woods and go camping. I'll do 2 or 3 days out in the woods where it's just me on a survival camp. And I use that time for meditation and ritual work where it's just me in the wilderness. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. Now, one thing I do want to talk about, now that we've got all of that out of the way, Yule's coming up. And one of the things that I found while researching is Odin actually has a very strong presence in Yule. In fact, if you search the internet, you'll find several articles that are actually wondering if the modern day Santa Claus is in some way inspired by the myths and legends of Odin. Now, we all know that literally the modern Santa Claus concept that was commercialized comes from St. Nicholas. But some of the legends that surround it and other things, there are people who wonder if some of those ideals aren't pulled from Norse culture. Because Odin was considered a gift giver, and during the 12 days of Yule, Odin and the other Norse gods were said to be on the Great Hunt, sometimes referred to as the Wild Hunt. Some people would even say it starts around Samhain and goes to Yule. So Odin was said to lead this great hunt on his horse Sleipnir. And on Yule, when it ended on the way back, children would actually leave straw in their boots for Sleipnir as they returned back. And in exchange for that gift and that kindness and that hospitality, Odin would leave gifts for them. Thus, you can see leaving gifts for children. You've got that Santa Claus-esque aspect there. Many people also point to the fact that Odin's horse has 8 legs. Santa has 8 reindeer. And again, during the Great Hunt, many of the Norse gods are said to be pulled in chariots or sleighs of sorts. That might be a bit of a stretch, but this is some of the things that are said in those articles. But the Norse did have a very large Yule tradition. In fact, wassail, which is really associated with Yule in the holiday season, there's even still to this day a Christmas song, Here We Come a Wassailing. In fact, by the time this video goes live, You should have already seen our kitchen witchery video from the previous week, where we actually talk about wassail, and we actually show you how to make a simple batch of wassail for the holidays. And the word wassail comes from the Norse word vashal, which it means strong drink or to be in good health. So, a lot of our holiday traditions are pulling from those Norse holiday traditions. So I can kind of see where these aspects come from. And due to his all-seeing, wise deity aspect as the Allfather, a lot of the Norse cultures and legend state that Odin knew whether you had been good or bad. So you got that checking the list thing coming on. And in fact, during the Great Hunt, displeasing the Norse gods was supposed to come with a harsher repercussions, while pleasing the gods were supposed to come with greater rewards and greater gifts. And again, this is just a few of the little legends and myths. And again, you also got to look at translation, which if you want to study Norse mythology, I cannot say it enough. Don't just pick up one or two books. You need to read and find as many different translations as you can. Because the first time Odin approached me was very early in my practice, when I was first finding my footing. And the first book I picked up did not paint the Norse deities in a good light at all. I mean, they just sounded like liars, cheats, and thieves, and backstabbers with no honor. And honor is important to me. So I put the book on the bookshelf and I was like, no. And I spent a good 5-6 years walking the other way. But I did eventually look into it more, find a few more books. Books were recommended to me. And that sparked my interest, and I got into researching it better. I looked into the Proetus and the Poetic Edis, and I tried to translate some of the words that didn't make a lot of sense to me, and I learned that that particular book was wrong. So don't take the first book you pick up as gospel for anything, not just the Norse, but for anything. Do some due diligence and research. One website I can actually recommend that's not a half bad resource is called Norse Mythology for Smart People. They have a lot of information if you're wanting to get started, understanding the Norse deities, the culture, the mythology, and I'll try and link that below as well. Now, if you're wanting to start working with Odin, by all means, go ahead and take that simple little prayer that I mentioned earlier in this video, and use that as a simple daily hailing ritual. And all a hailing ritual is it's kind of showing you're honoring the entity you're working with. And in this case, Odin. And you can actually do multiple hailing rituals, and you can even do an overall hailing ritual. But in this case, what I would do, and what I do actually, is I use the same opening. So, and then I just change out that bottom part where I'm actually asking Odin to join me. And that's where I would add a request or a prayer-like section. And then I'd finish with the 3 hails, because you always end with the hail, hail, hail. So an example of what I would do every morning is, Hail Odin, Allfather, Wise One, One-Eyed Wanderer, King of the Azir, Lord of Valhalla. Watch over me, guide me, teach me to better myself and those around me. Hail Odin, hail Odin, hail Odin. And this will actually build your connection with Odin and really draw him into your life, and you'll notice a great influence and inspiration and guidance that comes from just this very simple ritual. And you can do it anytime, any place. I actually prefer to go into my ritual room and do it, and then I do my hailing ritual, And I'll throw in a 5-10 minute meditation afterwards where I just listen for whatever comes. And then I get up and I go about my day. Now, there are days where I can't make it to the ritual room, but I will still do that same ritual. In fact, I've actually done it. I grind my coffee every morning, so I'll put the coffee beans in there and I'll hit the grinder, and I will say that little hailing ritual while I'm standing there waiting for the grinder, because that's the window of time I have, but I make sure to get it in there all the same. I've even done it in the shower before. So that's a great, simple little hailing ritual, incantation. I mean, you could call it a lot of things. But that's a very simple and easy way to get started. Now, one thing Odin will do, as great as he is to work with, and yes, I have absolutely loved working with him, I would always have to say, working with Odin and perhaps many of the Norse deities isn't for the faint of heart, but Odin especially, because of that shamanic aspect, he will push you to face your fears. If it scares you, if it terrifies you, or any of those things, he will push you to face them. He will drive you to some of the most in-depth, massively intense shadow workings that you have ever experienced. And working with him does come at, it's very trying, it's very hard. Some people even refer to it as sacrifice. There's a lot of sacrifice that comes when working with him. But he doesn't do it without reason. Everything he puts you through, everything he asks of you, it is to drive you to be a better person. So whether you're seeking just to be a better person, a better practitioner, or if you're seeking ascent of some kind, Odin will push you along that path and to make you the person you're driving yourself to be. And he does expect commitment. And if you give your word to him, he will expect you to keep it. Never break your word to him. Giving your word in Norse culture was it. Your word is you. It is your honor. And oath breakers were looked down upon worse than anyone else. So always keep your word. But there is that dark aspect to the shamanic practice that Odin does come in on. And you will be expected to face that as you work with him. Because that's all part of understanding you. And wisdom and understanding of the self is paramount. So Odin will definitely drive you to those areas. So with that, be forewarned, because I do know people who have started working with Odin. Nightmares and other things set in on them because he wanted them to do shadow work or to face certain fears and to deal with past traumas and other things, and they were refusing. But they were still trying to work with him. So the response was, well, since I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and serve it up anyway. There is a bit of a trickster side to Odin that should be noted. What he does for good reason. It's very logical, it's very thought out, it's very methodical. But he doesn't pull punches when it comes to getting the job done. And if giving you night terrors or nightmares for a month so that you face some subconscious issue you're dealing with, he's going to do it. Even if the only thing he can do is to do that in order to get you to wake up enough to be like, okay, I'm going to deal with it. So be sure when you set out to work with Odin that you are aware of these things. Weakness is not something Odin's big on. He's very big on standing on your own 2 feet and understanding who you are fully, and that means facing your dark side as well, and that means facing your fears. We all have fears, we all have traumas. Lord knows I have mine. I got more to work through than, well, I'll say my fair share. I know people's got it worse, but honestly, people shouldn't have it even as bad as I do. But when you approach an entity like Odin, and be ready, because that darker aspect is part of life. It's part of that whole. A lot of people try to just turn away from it, forget about it, not deal with it, but it's always going to be there. But with Odin's help, not only can you face those things, you can even master them and help to truly understand who you are as a whole. And from any practitioner's point of view, the more you understand yourself, the better you can understand the multiverse, and thus the better practitioner and magician you become. And honestly, in my personal opinion, the better we understand ourselves, our fears, and the things that we have to overcome, this also better helps us to help our community and others, because it gives us a greater understanding of what those people are going through. One of the things that Odin has helped me with greatly, playing poker growing up, I always was able to read people and understand them really well. But working with Odin, he has took that understanding of people to a whole new level that I never would have dreamed of. But it took me dealing with me first. So even though I will say that, be ready for those things and be sure you're willing to do them as part of working with him, I can't say I would ever tell anyone not to work with Odin, because the rewards are too great. And sounds like the jets are going to start circling my house again, so we'll go ahead and get ready to close up here. If you enjoyed the video, hit like and be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so that anytime we release any videos you'll get a notification, or at least until Kappa changes that on us. We're still not 100% sure how that's going to affect us. So we have actually started a website / blog where we now post articles, blogs, and all of our video links are going to be posted there as well. And every one of those posts has a comment section, just in case Kappa decides that we're going to lose our comment section here on the YouTube channel. We'll still have a comment section over there. I'll make sure the website is linked below. It's workingdragonmystic.com. So definitely join us over there. And we also have a new business page on Facebook where you can follow us. And again, we'll post all new content there. So be sure to go over to both the website and the Facebook page. All our new content will be showing up there. Even if the Kappa changes, turn off our notifications and comments on YouTube. Stay in touch with us there. And we are setting up a Working Dragon Mystic Reddit as well. So we're making sure there's plenty of ways for everybody to stay in touch with us, so that the Kappa changes does not affect how we reach out and how we share information. Because that's the whole point of this channel, is to reach out and share information for the seekers. We're wanting to make sure the information's there and available. Anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful Yule and a blessed holiday season. I'm Drake, and this has been Working Dragon Mystic. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.